Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Mutant XPerience podcast. For those of you who have been following my podcast for the last about 2.5 years now, you might be confused by the numbering of the episode. Last week we had episode 45 with SoCal Makoto legend Arlief Trolar. I think I pronounced it correctly for the first time. And so you might be wondering, wait a minute, why are we on episode 29? And that's because this is a special redo / redux version of the Mutant XPerience podcast. And unfortunately, when we originally did episode 29 of this podcast with my special guest, who is with me obviously tonight, DrSteelHammer, 2-time Jazzy finalist. And so, Dan, when we first did this podcast, I think it was almost a year ago now.
Yeah, it was definitely a while ago.
And I think sort of the silver lining is this podcast I think might be a little better than the last one.
I thought it was a wonderful podcast. We covered the SoCal Urian, the saga of
Yes.
Of who was it at the time? It was Rockefeller. It was Gutex. It was Emphy.
Mm-hmm.
We went through all that. I don't remember what else we talked about, but we talked for like 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like maybe 4 months later, you're like, oh yeah, that's like not on the internet anymore. I'm like, oh, okay. But we are back, and a lot has changed since then in my own life, and then obviously in all of our lives. So I think it's good to rehash all this, and there's no shortage of new shit to talk about.
Yep. And so some of you who are following the podcast might have noticed that we are getting very close to episode 50 of the Mutant XPerience podcast. But before we get there are a few redux podcasts that I have to do, and this will be the first of one of those. And so, Dan, you kind of alluded to it a few moments ago. Obviously, we are in the midst of a global pandemic.
You can look at it as a global pandemic or a Third Strike online renaissance.
Yes.
There's really only two ways to look at it. I opt for the later of the two.
Well, it is a more positive spin.
Yeah,
on current events.
That's basically the only positive thing in my life right now is the fact that we have Fightcade, and I can play all day. I can't imagine not having access to, if I was still on OE, I don't think I would have nearly as much fun. It's so cool that this timed up perfectly with this new Fightcade, which is pretty much getting universal praise.
Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I was about to ask. You're one of the few people in the country that have the luxury of not only an offline scene, but a scene that can take advantage of arcade perfect Third Strike, the way the game is meant to be played. And so I was going to ask you, how are you doing without offline Third Strike?
Well, I'm 6 minutes from next level.
Uh-huh.
I had been going there 2 times a week or more for the past, I guess, 18 months or so. And, I'd come home and I'd play online on OE, but it was always just training, and I would spend a lot of time in training mode, but I always knew that none of this actually mattered because I'm just going to go and play either in the tournament or I'm going to play on the arcade with some of the best players in the city. So that's been a major change to come back here now and not have that outlet and be playing these online sets and feel like, well, this is all I have. So I don't know, it almost feels like the importance of the games online has definitely gone up in my eyes, where it's like, I don't know, I'm probably not going to play this guy ever again. So I better play my heart out. Where before it was just much more like casual to me. It seems like online in my own mind, because it's all I have. Similar to like when I was only an online player for many, many years, all I cared about was like meaningless online results. And now that's kind of all I care about again, because I don't have these tournaments as an outlet. So it's definitely changed sort of how I feel about online and, how important it is.
I guess they're meaningless depending on what your definition of what is meaningful is. Right.
It's all we have now, so it's Cooperation Cup every time.
Yeah. So I was gonna ask you about obviously Fightcade 2. Seems like you're having a pretty good time on the platform.
I'm bamboozling on there. Bamboozling is my name, and it was not a name I chose. It was given to me by EXO. He had an extra account, and I love it on there. I mean, it's wonderful to have something like 200 plus players on at any time. I mean, I wake up sometimes at 4 a.m. and I'm like, I want to play some fucking Third Strike, and then I just immediately there's some other idiot who's not sleeping, and it ends up being some great player on a troll account and we play until 5:30 in the morning, and it's like that. I couldn't do that on OE, regardless of whether or not OE is a better platform. And with the CRT, blah blah blah, it might actually still be. The ease of access, the fact that it's CPS3 emulation, the run ahead, the new technology, just the enormous player base. I think it's the best way to play online Third Strike ever. And I've played on every single version for the most part since like 15th anniversary on Xbox Original. So I love it. I'm wholeheartedly a fan, and I hope it just gets better and better.
You just alluded to it. You were I don't know where you started. You started at GGPO like everyone else.
So I'm still terrible with computers, so I never really got GGPO going regularly.
So you started with OE.
I started on Xbox Original, the 15th anniversary collection in 2006.
Okay.
And that was the worst version of Third Strike outside of the Dreamcast, because when you would super jump on the Xbox version, the whole game would slow down. So when I played for 3 or 4 years, I thought that every super jump, just part of the game code was like, oh, you get a lot of time to think. But it was just this enormous amount of lag that was built into the game, on at least when you played it on a 360 backwards compatible. So I learned the game totally wrong on the worst possible netcode. But yeah, that was legendary. That there were some great players on that. Sandy Bags was on that. EXO was on that.
The Rage was on that. I heard.
Rage was on that. Shin Shay was on that. Those were my demons.
Wow, definitely Xbox Original Third Strike.
I played on a pad. I played on an analog stick on the 360. I played like that until 2017.
Yeah, that's crazy. And so you were under a different alias.
Yes, I was Dude So High.
Yeah.
And you figured out that DrSteelHammer DSH and Dude So High DSH. I had no idea.
Yeah,
that was
exact
the big
same
revelation
initials
of the last podcast.
So now we can design a shirt for you.
The DSH.
That says DSH.
We've got the Creative Flame. Look at that.
There you go. See, that was an assist.
Look at that.
You see that? That was a bounce pass.
He told me, he goes, yo, I can get it in your color, but you got to be a top player. I was like, have you ever heard of Frosty Faustings, baby? Get me that black Aryan.
So shout outs to Creative Flame, aka Dwight Pitts. Shout outs to him doing his grind. Definitely check out his stickers, creativeflame.fgc.
And he's a player too. I didn't know that he goes by Pyro, which was, to be Pyro in a game like Third Strike. There was already a Pyro, but maybe he didn't know of it at the time. But he played on OE with me. He plays Urian.
Speaking of which, did you see that set that was posted by Ricardo? Shout outs to the boiler room. I think it was 10 Ren versus it was a recent set, first to 5, 10 Ren versus Pyro.
Oh wow, I know. I
think they ran it recently. Yeah.
Was it competitive?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't watched it yet. That's why I wanted to ask you if you watched it.
No, I haven't watched it, but I did hear in the various line chats that Pyro was back. And I'd heard Pyro come back a few times to play, but it seemed like, from what I gathered, he was actually back to play seriously. And there'd be nothing cooler than if Pyro Lee came to the Jazzy Circuit finale and tried to auto-qualify, or tried to last chance qualify, because I'm confident he would. And I basically, at this point, played everybody but Justin Wong and Pyro Lee that I've ever wanted to play in the U.S. And I would love to play Pyro.
Wow. Well, if he's back, that's great.
Don't give him to me first round. Definitely don't give him.
Well, remember at the season 2 Jazzy finale, whenever that's going to be.
Yeah.
Remember, you guys are going to get a chance to choose where you are in the bracket this time.
Very interesting. That was sort of like debated briefly at the first season, right? And then it ended up didn't go through. But that's what
to my defense, right? I mean, you have 16 of the best players in that period of time. Where were you gonna go, right? Like there's really no.
Yeah.
I mean, my rationale for the way I seeded it was, I was looking at region first.
I like that you did that. Because I played 5-star first round, and I mean, I could have played a lot of players first round, but I had never even had the opportunity to play 5. I played one casual match with them about 10 minutes before the tournament. And it was I lost, but it was such a cool experience to have that match. And if you look at all of the matches in top 16,
I mean, we got to see like Yuki versus KO Fiend. Like, when's the? I don't remember. I don't know, chat. Maybe you can help me out, or maybe someone could tweet me at Mutant XP. But I don't remember KO Fiend playing Yuki in a tournament.
No, I
Ever. Like, I don't know if that's
house that weekend, and he was like, I don't think he's ever played KO Fiend or hadn't played him in years. And we were talking about KO Fiend, and he was like, well, this is an interesting. And they're both longtime players. Some of the other matches, like having Justin Wong go against Ryan, like the old guard Chun versus the new guard Chun, like it was really
and
cool.
Justin held his own.
Yeah,
he definitely held his own.
2-1, right? I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a great match. And now you're doing the retrospective with all the top matches of the last season, and it's cool to see like a lot of these. You know, the matchmaker. You know, I think you're a wrestling fan from back in the day. Maybe not.
Oh, I'm a huge wrestling fan.
Yeah, and I grew up
watching DrSteelHammer.
And like the matchmaking, you're like the Vince McMahon.
Well, thank you. I will gladly accept that comparison.
No, I like it because you could have easily seeded it differently, where it would have been like, oh, I lose to Frankie again, or I fucking, but it's like I got to lose to the other Ken. So that was exciting.
Yeah, but you know what? I wanted to kind of this season sort of wash my hands of it, and so you all get to choose where you're.
They do that in Japan, right? They do.
Oh, at co-op cup, yeah.
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 No, it's a really cool idea. So does it work like if you're the top seed, you pick last, or how would you?
Yeah, that's so basically the plan was going to be, right, depending on what timeline you're in. But the plan for the finale was going to be the auto qualifiers get to choose first, then the point getters, and then the last chance qualifier players.
Very cool, very cool.
Which is kind of it's also kind of a weird system when you think about it, because maybe you don't necessarily want to be the first person to put yourself on the bracket, right? Because like you're the first person, and so there's no, it doesn't matter where you put yourself, right? Because you're the first person who gets to choose the spot. So like,
it is weird.
Yeah, it's a weird format. It's almost like the people who get to choose in the middle are the ones that get to kind of use that to their advantage.
I feel like if I put my name down third and 5-star was behind me, he'd just be like, yeah, I'll just take SteelHammer.
You think people are going to be sniping you?
He's so goddamn good at that matchup.
Yeah.
He was telling me, he had me so fucking shook before the match. So we played one casual match in the ballroom before the tournament. And I actually won the match. And I was like, oh, cool. I have him first round. I just won the match. Then we start playing. And I'm like, this is not the same Ken that I just played. This is a completely different.
Why would he do that, though, Dan?
No, it was genius. It was like such old school gamesmanship that you have to tip your cap to him, because he played super aggressive in the casual match. And then in the tournament, he did nothing. Yeah. And it shook me initially, but we were discussing before the tournament, like, he's known to be a Urian killer. And he was telling me straight up, he's like, I've never played a Urian that's really beaten me. And he's played RX. He was talking about, he beat RB, who's now, I believe, the best Urian in the world in the previous Cooperation Cup to get to top 8 on Ushi's team. RB was on that team. So I'm like, I have all these thoughts going through my head. Like, I just won the one game. I'm in the middle of the first round. This is a totally different Ken. This guy beat RB. He's beaten RX. What am I going to do? He beat RKF as well in the New York High Rollers tournament. So, yeah, he'll just pick me. Well,
I think it's a byproduct of the fact that he has so many great Urian players, or he had so many great Urian players to play with. Guys like, obviously the father of all SoCal Urian players, Rockefeller.
Yeah.
He had Rockefeller, and then Enfi came on the scene. So there's a lot of Gutex then came on.
Kaz,
I mean,
he's still
Kaz, NG Mark, Cruz.
Yeah, everybody's.
I mean,
that was like the Urian capital of America, and it still is in a lot of ways. But a lot of those guys have, Mark went to Japan, Enfi went to Tekken, Gutex went, I don't know where he went, but he's come back a little bit. And then Rockefeller, I don't know, he went to Canada or something. I don't know where he went.
Not to get too philosophical on this, Dan, but have you ever wondered why Urian is so... I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of other regions that have a lot of Urian players, but it seems like SoCal is a bit of an exception. There are just so many...
Well, you were the only Urian in New York, and you're not even a Urian.
Let's not put myself in this conversation, but yeah, in SoCal, right? There are so many like godlike Urian players, and I just suddenly started thinking, like, what makes that character so attractive, aside from, the ability to just do whatever you want, because you could always win the round at any moment.
That's what appealed to
or
me.
is there any other reason,
I mean,
Dan,
his
as a
character
Jurian player?
design, like, he's just dope. He's
Uh-huh.
I mean, he's they wanted to make him naked and they just weren't allowed to.
Yeah.
And he's built like a brick shithouse.
Yeah.
He's the first openly gay Street Fighter character, so that's progressive and that's dope. And yeah, I just think with the thing in his, the third eye, everything about him, I
Uh-huh.
fell in love with him because I played Yun for years and it was always a Urian secondary. It was just because of RX. To watch
Uh-huh.
RX, the old Wanted series, if you want to watch like crazy stuff that you probably still haven't ever seen in a match, is the RX Wanted series where he goes through every character and just 100%s them. But all those combo videos, RX's great performances at SBO and Cooperation Cup, I would watch him and be like, that's the coolest character. And like these days, I play other characters as a joke and I don't have any fun and I don't find them interesting. And I just go back to Urian. And if I didn't play Urian, I don't think I have any interest in playing this game the amount I play it now. He's just endlessly open. He's open-ended forever. I mean, you can always do, every 2 weeks, I see something new with Urian that I had no idea existed. Where you could watch Ken from 2004 and it's essentially Ken from 2020. There's just like, I guess, better execution.
Would you consider Urian the prototypical Third Strike character? I'm not saying the best Third Strike character. I'm not saying the worst. I'm not saying any of that. But I'm just saying, like, when you think about the game of Third Strike, is Urian pretty much the prototypical Third Strike character?
I mean, first of all,
in my mind, he is.
He might be the prototypical American Third Strike character because of the guest and
no, but I'm just talking about his moves, right? He has all these different moves, right? He has fireballs. He has anti-airs. He's a charge character, but he's also a motion character.
He does cover all bases.
And he has that sort of that factor, right? Where it doesn't matter, what situation you're in. You could always come back if you're, it's the, maybe Makoto is the prototype. I don't think Makoto's almost too, I don't know. But I think to me, Urian's sort of the prototypical Third Strike character.
Well, Frankie talked about Urian being a good character to start Third Strike with. And at first I was like, no way. He's way too execution based, blah, blah, blah. Because I would always lean to the idea of like playing Ken. But if you think about it, I mean, Urian does teach solid defense. All the time I play players who their main character is like a Makoto or a Ken, and they're so bad with their defense. And then they play Urian, and I'm like, dude, this guy knows how to block because they live in down back. And it's like, if you want to learn how to defend, playing a charge character can be really valuable because, there's sort of like this inherent feeling of I have to hold down back to be, destructive and do damage, but you're also blocking. So, charge characters are great for learning how to block. They're also great for learning, the importance of spacing because you're stuck all the time. So you have to be, you have to learn how to move while you're holding down. So that's good for learning spacing. I think Urian is actually, now since Frankie pointed out, I've thought about it a lot. I think he is a wonderful character to learn the importance of, spacing, how to jump because of his jump roundhouse, how to anti-air. His anti-airs are very simple with the stay medium, punch fireball. You can learn a lot about the game, the importance of guest pairing every single time you get knocked down so you can do a launcher in 100%. I mean, that's fundamental Third Strike.
Yeah. To me, I think because of the way the character is built, assuming that the Urian is using Aegis Reflector, it's always the race to meter, right?
And you pointed that out to me. You told me the old RX idea that Urian is like an atomic bomb that's building. And that was like, I think it was just sort of something you said in conversation that probably didn't mean all that much to you, but it like fundamentally changed the way I look at the character. Because I always understood, like, of course, he's not good without meter. But it was you telling me, play him like an atomic bomb. And it was Daisuke saying, like, he's fucking awful without meter. That I realized, I was like, because when I play you in Urian Mirrors, what tends to happen is halfway through the first round, you have a full bar and I have a quarter of a bar. And I'm like, what is going on here? It's because you have always focused on building your meter. And for years, I didn't. And it's like, that Third Strike is a heavily meter dependent game, especially as normal, build meter. So Urian's another great character in terms of like prototypical third strike, because that stand medium punch, like you got to be building it. And not every character is as good as Urian at building meter with normals, but yeah, that's another fundamental third strike skill that Urian will absolutely teach you.
Yeah, and it's also helpful that when you do build that meter, the potential not only just for the win, but for the stylish win is very high, right? And I think that's also another thing that is very attractive about Urian. You can win the match and you can beat your opponent and look pretty fucking sick doing it.
Oh yeah, and there's a huge amount of creativity, and you can add your own personal flair. Like I was playing a set earlier, and I hit one of my reverse tackles, and one of the comments in the Twitch stream was, "Oh, that must be SteelHammer," because like I've gotten known for doing those reverse tackles, and like there are certain things like you can watch RX, and a lot of like he does a lot of tackle into stand medium punch EX headbutt. Like if the Aegis is on them, there's these certain moments that I don't need to know who's playing. Like if I watch Ru's one of the best Urians in Japan. I see the Silver Urian. Of course, they're in Tokyo, so it's probably Ru.
SA1 Urian.
SA1 Urian. That's his new thing. He's running the SA1. I tried it as a joke. I can't even win a round. You're the best SA1 Urian I've ever played.
No. Better than Grimlock? Better than Grimlock?
I never played Grimlock.
Oh. Grimlock has a pretty nice SA1 Urian.
I don't know if it's a whiffed headbutt. You did a couple of them on me that were so rude. So rude. But yeah, SA1 is actually kind of legit. I mean, it hurts a lot.
Yeah, it takes a lot of damage. It's too bad it's not too confirmable.
Yeah, it's hard.
But, what are you gonna do? I already forgot. Like, is Tyrant Slaughter with punch? It's with punch, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. You definitely didn't forget when you were playing me.
It would be cool if Tyrant Slaughter was with kick, and then you could like DED with like a little short or something.
That would be interesting. Yeah. I mean, I guess theoretically you can confirm it with like UOH. Frankie was showing me he can confirm crouch short into super with Alex. So maybe it's possible to do crouch short into Tyrant with Urian, but yeah, I can't confirm at all. That's why I play Urian in the first place. I never understood the concept.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right. I think a lot of it started with Tokido, right? And his performance at B5 when he did the corner unblockables on Justin.
Of course. I just released the corner unblockable video that then got taken down because of copyright issues. But I showcased that match in the opening sequence because I think it's the most important match as an American Urian because it started it all. And almost no other character, I don't know if Necro or maybe Pino AB7's footage early on was like sort of fundamental for Sugiyama, but like that match, Tokido, they call it like the 1,000 tackles or something. And there was a really interesting sort of like podcast with Gutex and 5-Star where they talk about that match and how important it was. But for me, when I first saw that, I was like maybe, I don't know, 16, 17 years old. And it had happened like 4 or 5 years previous. And it just blew my mind because, you play Urians online, an Xbox original in 2006, and they don't look anything like that. And then you see this footage of Tokido and you're like, how is this even possible? And sometimes I think like, could the game developer like 10% of what Urian was capable of? Because I've played him in Second Impact and he's awful. And there's almost no room for creativity. None of his stuff works. He's like so bare bones. I don't know who designed him in Third Strike, but the dude is a genius.
Yeah, the leap between Second Impact Urian and Third Strike Urian was just enormous. And I think that might be another reason too, because I came up in SoCal too, back when the game came out, and there was just so many Kens and so many Urians. Not a whole lot of love for Chun at first, and then obviously as tournaments started popping up, right, everyone started realizing the power of Chun. But speaking of Chun versus Urian, I want to get to that in a little bit.
Yeah,
I want to talk a little bit about Frosty. So you're a 2-time Jazzy finalist. You got in through points season 1.
Yes, by the skin of my teeth.
And then you won an auto qualifier to get into the season 2 finale this past January, Frosty Faustings 2020. And so I was there to witness another milestone in your Third Strike career. And so
that was a big one for sure.
Yeah, and so
No, I was just thinking because last year I won Mackay Cup, which is a Vampire Savior tournament, not really known for Third Strike, but it wasn't even streamed. It was like I won it with Yun because I wasn't confident with Urian. But like to actually go to a major and compete with 88 guys and win it, it was like I played this game a lot, so it was absolutely kind of an indication that I'm on the right track for sure.
And that's a great point that you make, Dan, because one positive that I see from tournament play, and not just tournament play, but consistent and regular tournament play, however frequently we are going to be able to run these in the future, is that you can see like these are tangible results, right?
Yeah.
Like you got in through point season 1, you qualified season 2. I remember one of the first events of season 1 was ECT 2018.
Yeah.
And you lost to Chris G then.
I did.
NEC 2020 or NEC 2019, you were able to beat Chris G.
I was.
So there's like, to me, like that's the joy, right, of seeing
it's the
that.
Best to see the results and then to feel. So I'm a very feel-based player. A lot of times people ask me about like frame data, they ask me about specific techniques, and I actually don't know a lot of stuff. I just know feeling. So like when I play a player, the feeling that they make me have is how I determine their skill relative to mine. So like the first time I played Chris G was at East Coast Throwdown, I guess 2 years ago, and it was in grand finals. And the feeling that he made me have in my heart, I had never, and probably have not felt up until today. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't do anything. And I, at the time, had almost no experience with that play style. You play something very similar to him, where it's very passive, very defensive, very turtle-based. And I come from online, where it's like, let's run into each other as hard as we can until someone dies. And Chris G didn't play that game. And I remember I'm playing, I lose the first round. It went to like maybe 5 seconds left on the clock. And I looked at the crowd, and I was like, where am I? Because all of my mental energy was expended in that first round. And you could probably look at him on the video, and he's just chilling. He's sitting there. He literally had like 4 trophies around him. He had a giant gold record because he had just won the Marvel Infinite tournament. And I mean, that's intimidating as hell. But I know that in his mind, he's like, I can do this all day.
And a cane was at stake. Remember, the winner received a cane. An old man cane, remember?
Really?
Courtesy of 202 Furious. Yeah, because
I
shout outs to Min.
That.
Yeah.
I did not get the cane, and I lost that set, and it was one of those losses. Sometimes you'll lose to someone. Like if I lose to someone in New York Monthly, it'll hurt, but I'll think like I'll get him next month. When you lose to Chris G, you're like, I'm never gonna play that guy again. Like realistically, he's not coming to the monthlies. I'm not gonna see him online. I have to hold that forever. So when I went to Northeast Championships and saw him, I was like, I'm getting my run back. And he played Chun for some reason. And that feeling of he's turtling, oh my God, he's not doing anything. I go, okay, cool. I was a year older. I was a year wiser. I played a year with the best players in America. And I go, I'll just turtle harder. Like, I don't care anymore. It doesn't affect me. And like that feeling no longer existed, and my confidence had gone up because the second he picked Chun, I'm like, I play with the best Chuns. Like I had literally just run sets with Frankie's Chun the day before. I'm like, I'm not scared of your Chun. But when I had first come into the tournament scene, I had no experience with the top level players in the country. I was just a guy from online who thought he was pretty good. And, with each successive tournament, whether it's a win or a loss, because I've had nasty losses too, ones that are just absolutely devastating for me. You get stronger and you get more confident. And like when I sit down and play a tournament match compared to the first time, I'm like, I've been here before. It's not that big of a deal anymore, but it used to be absolutely terrifying.
Before NEC, you even beat Frankie and put him in losers at East Coast Throwdown.
Yeah, that was a big one. That Frankie's beaten me. He's 7-1 against me in tournament. I don't beat Frankie very often, but that was like sort of, and then he ended up beating me in winners. But that was another moment. Beating Shotokan was nice too. Shotokan's someone that I've always, I struggle in that matchup. A lot of these wins, beating Lance in grand finals was really fun just because that matchup is hard. Like for me, it's just a matter of continuing to do what I'm doing because it's clearly working. And what I'm doing, and you can look at Fightcade hours played. I have 2 times as many hours played as anybody in the entire world of Fightcade right now. Like that, there's no secret to me and my ability to, get better and better and do well in these tournaments. I'm literally playing twice as much as any other person in the scene. And it's unfortunate because I have a full-time job and a girlfriend, and I imagine neither my boss or my girlfriend are very happy with that. But I'm getting better, and there's no shortcuts in this game. Everyone always like, I have a Urian Discord. It's the Urian Illuminati, and you know, a lot of guys will come in there and they're new and they want to like just get sick, and you just can't. I mean, you've been playing this game for what, 18 years, 19 years?
Yeah.
Like I've been playing for like 15 years. Like this is like you know, and we still have a lot to learn. And these guys that come in, I don't know, you know, what it is. I think we probably all had that mentality early on. There's no shortcuts in Third Strike. You have to just put in hours and hours and hours. And if you play a character like Urian or a character like Necro, setups and hit confirms, like if you're not spending time labbing, like I've seen you lab Sugiyama. Sugiyama will come out with some crazy knee draw or fucking knee drill thing. Like you'll sit in there and you'll lab it. Like I came to your house and you were in training mode. Like I know that's like there's no secret to how you get good at this game. What I don't know is how you get great at this game. That's where I'm reaching a level where it's starting to realize like, oh, maybe I'm just not smart enough to be one of the best players. Like there's this weird thing that happens where it's almost like, oh, that dude's so good at basketball. He's like 5'10". Or it's like, yeah, he could have been in the NBA if he was 6'7". Where I'm now starting to get to the point where I'm like, how far can I go with this? Am I, you know, gifted enough in terms of reactions? Am I smart enough? Am I, you know, have the intangibles to go much further?
Well, I think one possible answer might be, you know, up here, right? Like, I think you're right when you're starting to learn the game, when you first pick up the game, and you start doing that grind. You're right. That's the only way. You got to keep playing. But I think it's also important to not just play, but this is going back to something that Arlive said in the last podcast. Playing is not enough. You also need to watch. You also need to analyze.
Yeah.
It's sort of, you know, it's classic Bloom's taxonomy, right? You know, for those people who are education buffs out there, it's, you know, the first thing you do is repetition, keep doing it, playing. But at some point you have to sort of start understanding why you're doing things. And so I think, you know, to kind of answer your question, it might just be mental, like really stopping and thinking, okay, so like why exactly did I lose this? Like, and then you just go through the video and you go through every moment, right? Every situation. And, you know, it's to me, right? I feel like if you just watch one of your matches back, if you spend like an hour watching one of your matches back, you know, and again, your mileage will vary depending on who you are as a player. But I think that's a better use of that 1 hour's time than, you know, just kind of playing matches or, you know, playing casuals or whatever.
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, first, this game has to get from your hands into your head. It's like when you first start, I remember playing Street Fighter Hyper Fighting when I was like maybe 10, and I heard you do a down forward and a punch, and the whole time I was thinking, down forward punch, down forward. I wasn't thinking about spacing. I wasn't thinking about Oki. I wasn't thinking about anti-air. I was just thinking, how do you do the down forward and the punch, and the fireball comes out? And like if you grind that enough, eventually it becomes part of you. Like when I play Urian, I really feel like he's just an extension of me. Like I don't have to think at all. I just do. And that's just the result of years and years of grinding. And then eventually it goes into your body to the point where it's second nature. And then you don't have to think about the moves, and then you can think about the game and the strategy. And a lot of guys, they want to just get to the thinking and the strategy. And it's like, if you aren't automatic on your bread and butters and you're not automatic on just how the character moves and flows, it's really hard to just jump right into strategy. That's where the years of grinding, and you can grind in matches, but I really feel with a character like Yuri in training mode, I made enormous growth. I didn't play training mode for almost the entirety of my Third Strike life, and then I fell in love with it and started putting out the Leaving Mongolia videos and the 5-minute murder videos just because I was labbing so much. And it's an enormous benefit to know in your bones the combos, to not have to think at all. It just takes a lot of time. And a lot of people, I think understandably so, are not willing to put in that time. A lot of people's goals, that was something I did not understand for a while. I assumed everybody's goal, because my goal, a lot of my friends' goal, is to be the best player in the world. I mean, like, it's not realistic at this stage. Like, I want to be the best possible player that I can be and beat every person who ever tried to play me. I mean, it's not realistic, but that's what I want. A lot of people just want to play and just, like, have fun. Like, I don't get that. I want to just be the best. Like, that's just how
You don't
that's
get
how
that?
I'm wired.
You don't get what don't you get? That people are not as competitive as others?
I get it now, but I didn't get it for a while because like I would work with
Okay.
these new Urian players, and I'd be like, yeah, you just got to go and do that for like 4 hours over and over until you just never
Yeah.
drop it again. And they're like, no, but I have to like eat dinner with my parents, and I'm like, no, you don't. You have to just fucking. You don't have parents anymore. You're a Urian player. This is your life now, and they're just like, no, and I just didn't understand, but.
I think, for in terms of the third strike scene getting better and players learning the game and getting better at the game, just kind of going back to my point about watching matches, and, that's another great thing about Fightcade, right? You got the
It's really
replays.
cool.
But to me, like, there should be more views on some of these replays. I mean, I feel like, I don't know, I don't think I'm gonna have the time for it, but it would be really cool if someone maybe started a stream where they just kind of, streamed Fightcade replays of matches that maybe top players think, would be really helpful to watch or something like that. I mean, I don't know, like there's got to be some way that we can encourage more third strike, because and I know why it's hard, right, Dan? Because third strike's crack. It's just so like you need to get back in there, right? It's like, at least offline you have to wait. You know what I mean? But like online, you don't have to wait.
No.
You can just keep playing and playing and playing and playing. And so I understand that it's hard to kind of just go, okay, you know what? I'm not going to play today. Maybe I'll just watch matches. Watch my own matches, watch matches of top players.
That's what I spend most of my time doing. I was joking with Frankie about the idea of like watching matches on our and stuff. That's essentially what I do when I go to work. I of course work, but I find a way to position myself in the office where no one can see my computer screen. And I always have third strike on. Always. And it's always one of like 7 Urians. And I'm just watching. And I'm not always watching with intention. And that's something that Frankie and Daisuke have both helped me with a lot, is when you watch, because I watch for entertainment. It's something I really enjoy watching. It's fun, and it's almost like, that's my sports, is third strike matches. But to watch with intention and to see whenever there's some sort of major swing in momentum, if the character you're watching takes a lot of damage, how did they take that damage? What decision did they make that led to that damage? If like what Five Star actually taught me a lot by explaining how he watches the Kuroda matches. So like there's the famous Kuroda DVDs, and he was watching Kuroda play as Ken versus Urian, and he was like, how is Kuroda seeing every single one of these tackles? Because what Five Star does is he plays it in what they call Matador style, where he's looking for my tackles and he's trying to jump back and Matador them and then hit me with like the jump back roundhouse low forward super. And he was like, Kuroda's the best at this. And what Five Star was telling me is that instead of just watching the tackle, he would rewind 10 seconds and watch before the tackle what the Urian was doing. And there was always some sort of tell, whether it was like 3 normal moves and then the tackle. And it was like, so then Five Star, when he played me, he hit me with a Matador. Me, after the match, that like I had these tells that he picked up on pretty quickly. And it's really valuable when you watch top match footage. First of all, to find out who the best players with your character are. And it's changed over the years. Like, of course, RX is still the best Urian, but like there's this new guy named RB who's really incredible. And he's taken the character to new levels. And a lot of people, don't know about him. And, it's important to first find out who the best character, best player with your character is, but to watch with intention when you have time. If you want to just watch for fun, you will learn through osmosis. But to look like, how did he land that launcher? Did he just do it? Did he parry? Did he buffer a parry in a safe position where it wasn't going to be a big risk? What was it, a punish? What was the punish? Like, there's so much information to be derived from every major swing in momentum. And that's where I usually start.
Yeah, definitely. So before we take our first break, I guess one of the takeaways from this first segment: watch matches, watch your own matches, watch matches of top level efficient players. And speaking of watching matches, Dan, and I know you alluded to this a little bit earlier, but remember, guys, that we are doing something called the Jazzy Retrospective. And so on Tuesday, August 25th, live on twitch.tv/Venkabot. Shoutouts to Venkabot. We'll be airing a Jazzy Circuit retrospective and restreaming the top 8 Jazzy Circuit matches in our short history. And so we need your help to decide which matches advance to the retrospective. If you guys thought the previous weeks of voting have been pretty tough, it's pretty rough.
It's really
this week.
It's funny where I'm watching like I got through the first 2 rounds, and now I'm like, no, that match is way better than my match. Like, there's some super sick ones. I personally think the Yuki versus KO Fiend was the hypest. I felt. I mean, I was there, so it helped a lot. But that super, it was like, what? That's my. And then of course the Ahmed Daisuke set. I was also there for that, so I think it helps with the bias. But those both felt like different level in terms of hype.
Yeah. And so remember, guys, if you want to vote for this week's matches, all you have to do is go to this URL, tinyurl.com/jazzyretro-5, and you can go ahead and make your vote. So you'll just go ahead and choose which match you think should advance. Remember, the winners of this week's voting advance to the Jazzy retrospective. And so you are on this ballot, Dr. DrSteelHammer?
I am. And it's interesting because this was the match you chose. It was probably the match that I would have chosen as well. For me, it was the time where I felt the most like an animal. I mean, I was completely inappropriate with the pop-off, but I was playing against Fantastic, who's someone that I've known for a long time. He used to play on Xbox Live, and I used to play black-colored Yun, and he played black-colored Yun, so we'd race to get black-colored Yun, and then he would always get it first, and we had really great matches, and I hadn't seen him for years. And then we show up, he's at next level because he was living in New Jersey, and I make 2 complete bullshit. I mean, if you want to see why you should play Urian, it's that fucking match. I was outplayed the whole time. I guest parried everywhere. I made all these mistakes, but I caught 1 anti-air fireball. And, I don't even want to watch this. I'm playing the wrong color and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I make the most bullshit comeback maybe of my life. So look, I'm playing all right now, but I get knocked down. So I'm like, I actually blocked it. I can't block that. Probably better last year. Trying to just beat Ganagin. No respect for Ganagin.
Wow.
I'm playing pretty dope. Look at the backdash. Oh, man, come on, hit your combos.
Oh, I like that NB jump fierce DrSteelHammer.
Yeah, that's RX. That's just straight RX. There are certain techniques where I watch RX do it, and I'm like, I don't really know why you do that, but I'm going to do it a lot. And that's one of them. I'm just fucking clowning on him. But it doesn't. That first round is not an indication of how this match goes. You would think I'm like, oh wow, I'm super, super hyped. Is this the final match, or is this?
I think this is the beginning of the set. We might as well watch it.
I think I might win the first one, but
you might have.
I got better at double parrying that now.
Oh wow, that was interesting.
To wake up heavy, I don't do that anymore. I've definitely grown from there. Ganajin's one of those things. A lot of guys are like, how do I Ganagin? And it's probably the most complicated answer, which is just you don't deal with it. You just hold down back and take the command. But so I would have done
I don't really understand that EX Aegis. But
I don't know. That was just an input error. I'm very nervous.
Oh, okay.
I would have back thrown and dropped the Aegis.
Oh wow.
I think I might win this one, but he wins the next one.
Yeah.
Fran's one of those guys who doesn't play much, but it's just for some reason he was playing casuals. It just comes back to him. He's one of those guys, like when I played Long Island Joe the first match he played, I'm like, he's pretty good. By the 8th match, I'm like, this guy's incredible because he just learns and it all flows back into him. And Fran's a lot like that.
So watching that footage of you on the cab, I wanted to ask you, not that anyone's launched any official complaint, DrSteelHammer, but as commissioner of the Jazzy Circuit, if I were to have to ban the use of vapes, what kind of knock would that be on your performance? What percentage?
I'd be knocked out, before top 8 every turn. I wouldn't come anymore. What I would do is work on advancing my career.
So Fran manages to win.
This ring is ass, dude. Who is this?
Let me just turn down the quality. I don't know why I'm. Okay. So Fran flips somebody off here for some reason. Okay, there.
That's like he's just fucking.
This footage makes me miss next level.
I'm miserable. That's one thing about me. Oh, that's Gavin. Gavin came to that tournament and didn't play and beat all of us in casuals, which is the biggest big dick move ever. When you just win all the games before the tournament and then don't play in the tournament.
So I guess Fran picked the wrong character here, but managed to pick the right color.
Now I'm way better at ending rounds quickly with the charge partition roundhouse tackle I stole from RKF. The chop is not efficient.
Okay. Nice fierce there. And that's another thing, Dan, that I think a lot of new players struggle with when they play Yun and Ganesian. Sometimes, obviously you want to err on the side of caution, right? And, when they're pressuring you a certain way, it's probably, a better idea just to take it. But when a Yun player activates in the neutral from across the screen, like that doesn't mean that you just have to hold it.
No.
Right? Like he doesn't. It's not like a star from Mario Brothers. I mean, as much as power, it feels like it sometimes, but it's not.
No.
The Yun player still has to block. They still have to parry. And so I think that was a really good example of how you've grown, Dan. Sort of challenging the inefficient use of Ganesian there.
Well, if you watch the Urian DVD from Kuroda, what he does a lot in the corner is when he reads command grab from Yun, he'll back throw. And our throw as Urian players will often beat the Yun command grab. And it's, so often guys will send me messages like, that's bullshit. That only works online. And I'm like, I'll link you to the Kuroda DVD. It's a tactic that he uses. But I overuse it and I die as the result. But this is the match. For me, this was one of the hypest comebacks of my life.
Yeah, I was pretty hyped too.
I mean, I don't know if there's sound, but I scream. I don't know. It was just sort of like a primal yell.
A rebel yell.
And it's funny because this is for like 4th place or something, and I just lose the next set to Ahmed, so it meant nothing. But in the moment, it was like SBO times 1,000. Oh, he's got he missed the Ushi combo with the crouch medium play.
Yeah. Oh.
I wonder why that was safe.
Oh, you whiffed too soon. He was still in the air.
Oh, okay. But now I'm down, backs against the rope, and I make 2 comebacks. This is the first of the 2 comebacks. So I remember he just destroys me with Ganesian in both these rounds.
Yeah.
And I'm just
somehow
I'm trying
you
to
managed
headbutt.
to.
That was what I thought was like a good technique at the time, the headbutt out of Ganesian, but it never works. So I don't do that anymore. I don't recommend.
Oh, what? Oh.
So look,
that was the 3S. That was the 3S god saying that's a push, right? When you do something dumb and then but the other person does something dumb.
Look at the health. I get the wake up headbutt just like a scrub, but I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna win somehow.
Yes,
I'm gonna win.
Wow.
I'm just losing my mind here, trying to get. I have no health. No health.
Yeah.
Look at that, Urian baby. Just get the tackle, get the party started. I was like, I'm not dying with my meter.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Arigato.
I don't even think you needed EX.
No, but I'm so nervous. I'm just like shaking.
Yeah.
I'm freaking out. So in my mind, I've already won. I forgot that it was another round. And then look, he activates and he just destroys me. And I'm like, my heart is sunken right now because I've made this huge comeback and I'm gonna lose. And that's so embarrassing to lose after like popping off in the fucking second round.
Is it me or do you hate it when Yun regular grabs you?
It's the worst feeling ever.
Oh my goodness, DrSteelHammer. Oh, he should have Aegis there. Wow. You're giving him every opportunity to come back. That was interesting.
Yeah, he just committed Harikari right there.
Oh, wow. Well.
I got so lucky.
Fred's so salty.
Oh, he's so salty.
But mad respect to Fran, wherever you are, Fran. Hope you can come back to next level whenever everything is okay.
One more time. He definitely is still playing in some capacity, and he felt stronger. I feel like he had been playing. It's always nice to have another Yun.
So you can vote for this match, or other matches. You are going up against Justin versus Ryan, though.
Which, you know what? Everyone loves a Chun versus Chun mirror. Let's get me through this round and then let me lose.
Okay, great. All right, so we're going to go ahead and take our first break. But when we come back, I want to talk about Frosty, man. I know we keep kind of glossing over it, but I definitely want to talk about Frosty since that was sort of the last event that you and I sort of went to, right?
Yeah,
so,
major.
Mhm.
Ever.
So we're gonna take a quick 2-minute break. When we come back, more Mutant XPerience podcast, episode 29, Redux with DrSteelHammer. Don't go anywhere. Hey guys, welcome back to more Mutant XPerience podcasts. Episode 29, Redo, with my special guest, 2-time Jazzy finalist, DrSteelHammer, and a friend. I know
Penny.
that, what was the dog's name again?
This is Penny.
Penny, that's right, Penny. So I know Penny made his debut, or her debut. Is it a he or a she?
It's a she.
A she, okay. So Penny made her debut on the original episode 29.
She did. She's much bigger and much smellier now.
Yes, so it's good to see Penny doing well. And so speaking of milestones, DrSteelHammer, today, I don't know if you caught the tweet But today officially ends the Fightcade 1 era. Excuse me,
Yeah.
Fightcade 1 era.
I saw all the statistics. It was like 23,000 games played or something crazy.
Mm-hmm. And so, obviously Fightcade was the immediate successor to GGPO. And now it seems as though Fightcade 1 is behind us in the rearview mirror. Any fond memories of Fightcade 1? Any stories that you have?
I hated Fightcade 1.
Yeah. But in all seriousness, though, a lot has been said about Fightcade 1 and how it runs, in particular Third Strike. But at the end of the day, Fightcade 1, the developers, Fightcade 2, they played an integral part in keeping this game alive.
Oh, for sure.
Without Fightcade, there would be no Third Strike.
One of my favorite,
or it wouldn't be the way it is now. So
one of my favorite parts about Fightcade Neo, the new one, is playing all the Fightcade legends, because a lot of these guys, some of them are keyboard players, some of them are pad players. I don't even know. A lot of them playing Guitar Hero Control. I have no idea, but they're good, and I have never played them, and will probably never have the opportunity to play them in any other capacity. But yeah, Fightcade 1, a lot of legendary play. I mean, Tenren was basically the Fightcade. He went to Cooperation Cup top 8, primarily playing on Fightcade. So you can, and a lot of people have, become monsters through that platform. And I think even more will come as the result of this improved Fightcade Neo.
Definitely. No, I agree with you. And so I thought, Dan, to commemorate the end of the Fightcade 1 era, I thought I would bring back a game. I don't remember if it was during the House of Strikes days or the earlier days of the Mutant XPerience podcast, but sort of in honor of the end of the Fightcade 1 era, I thought it would be a good idea to bring back this game that I made up, and the game is called Fake, Real, or Fightcade. I don't know if you remember this game back in the day, DrSteelHammer. But basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a list of usernames, screen names. And you're going to have to guess whether it's a fake username, a real username, right? Someone who plays offline, like a tournament player name, or it's a Fightcade username.
This is a brilliant idea.
Yes. I don't know if anyone remembers this game. Probably not, but I'm pretty stoked for it. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you ready to play Fake, Real, or Fightcade?
Let's do it.
All right. Okay. So, Fake, Real, or Fightcade? You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Okay. So the first username, and I forgot to put the timer. We'll give you 15 seconds, right? 15 seconds sounds like a good, a good time. All right. So the first name, and chat, feel free to play along.
Yeah, I might need to phone a friend here.
Okay. So the first username we have is Low Key Goki. That's pretty godlike.
That's a great name.
But is it fake? Is it a real username, or is it a Fightcade username?
Well, I have yet to see a low-key Goki. It's such a good name. It better be real. I'm going to say it's not. I'm going to say it's fake. I'm going to say that came from someone else's mind.
Yeah,
it's fake, right? I love it. It'll be one of my alts.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, all of you are wrong. It is actually a real username. Low-key Goki participated in a Jazzy Circuit event in Season 2. Yep. So it is a real username.
Well, we were all.
Yes, you were all wrong. So it's okay.
It's okay.
It's the first. It's the first try. Yes. Well, I mean, you have a few more guesses here. Okay. All right. So the next username that we have, my new alt account.
My new alt account must.
And of course, I know you're a year-end player, Dan. So don't be cheap, okay? Don't have that Fightcade user profile search page up on.
No, I would never. I'll keep my hands up.
No unblockables in this game, dog.
My new alt account must be a Fightcade name.
All right, what do you guys think? So Dan thinks it's a Fightcade name, and Dan, you are correct.
Look at that. 1 and 1.
It is a Fightcade username.
We're still in the game here.
That's right. To be fair, that was a little easy.
It was right there in the name.
It was right there. Yes. Okay. Okay. Next one. You ready?
I'm ready.
Jesse Heisenberg.
Jesse Heisenberg?
Fake, real, or Fightcade?
I think that one's fake.
Fake. Final answer.
Shinebox is going with Fightcade. We're getting multiple Fightcade legends.
Well, then it has to be Fightcade, right?
It has to be Fight. Juna's saying fake.
Okay, Juna says fake.
I'm gonna go with Shinebox. He's a trustworthy guy. He worked at grocery stores during the pandemic. I mean, this is an
essential worker.
He's an essential worker, and I'm gonna put.
Well, but Frankie says fake though too.
But Frankie doesn't play on Fightcade very much. Shinebox.
Oh, that's true.
Grew up on Fightcade.
Yeah, but Fighter's Destiny says Fightcade.
I know, that's another Fightcade man.
The Telesniper says real though. Okay, now I'm just.
Wow, we've got all three. I'm gonna go with my boy Shinebox, grocery boy, the hero of the pandemic.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you know what? You were right to go with Shinebox.
There we go.
Because it is indeed a Fightcade name.
He's seen it before. Great job, Fightcade.
Yes. So please challenge Jesse Heisenberg. I hope to God it is the real Jesse Heisenberg, but it probably isn't.
Well, there was a legendary player named I Am Jeff Goldblum.
Mm-hmm.
We found out actually was Jeff Goldblum.
Oh, okay. That's great.
Which was incredible. He's got a good aura.
We need to get him on the phone. All right. All right. Okay. Sorry.
There's a few names I hope come up.
Well, we can always play this game again, Dad.
Yes,
you know, if the crowd wants it, I can always bring this back in the next podcast. Bobby Butthole.
Bobby Butthole.
Bobby Butthole.
We have Granny Butthole. This might be Granny Butthole's brother, Bobby.
It might be.
But Bobby Butthole, I'm going to have to say Bobby Butthole. It certainly sounds like a Fightcade name. I agree with that.
I just read it. Like, it's like, obviously I picked these names, but just seeing it on the...
I'm going to go with fake.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. With, Bobby Butthole. There's only Granny Butthole.
There's only Granny Butthole? Shout outs to Granny Butthole. Okay. So you're going...
Telesniper is coming in with the facts. Oh, no.
Well, let's see. Is Bobby Butthole fake, real, or Fightcade? Bobby Butthole is, in fact, a real username. Bobby Butthole also entered a Jazzy event.
Aaron Butthole.
Yes.
Bobby Butthole. With Shinebox. When I met Granny Butthole, it was like, honestly, it was the equivalent of when I met Daigo.
Yeah.
It was like, wait a second, you're real, you're not just in videos? And then Granny Butthole ended up being a totally normal soft spoon.
Yeah.
Blew my mind.
Yeah. Okay. The last one, Dan.
I'm ready.
Let's see if you can get this, all right? Sorry.
So I'm 1 and 2. This is to go 2 and 2.
Spinning Pete.
Spinning Pete? I don't think we've had a fake yet. Or maybe we have. I don't know. Anyone know anything about a Spinning Pete? We got a fake from Jandor.
Please let that be real.
Spinning Pete. I'm going to say that Spinning Pete is fake.
Well, it's not going to be fake for long. That's for sure.
Oh, is that your new alt?
No. But you guys are right. It is indeed a fake.
2 and 2.
So someone gobble that up. Gobble the name up. Spinning Pete on Fightcade.
There's already 10 guys clamoring at their keyboard.
Yes. There's going to be Spinning Feet 722. All right. Well, you did pretty well.
I did okay. Dan. 2 and 2. A solid tournament. Just missed top 8.
Yeah. Not bad.
Get back. I'll watch my match videos and I'll learn.
Mm-hmm. So, guys, if you want to see fake, real, or Fightcade come back, tweet me at Mutant XP. Let me know. Kind of a fun little game since we're all holding it down here during the pandemic. Got nowhere to go. Got to play some Third Strike. Got to play on Fightcade. And so, let's talk a little bit about Frosty.
For
and
sure.
So, we already kind of touched on, the fact that Frosty was obviously, the hugest milestone for you, I would assume.
Yeah.
As far as, your tournament career. And so tell me a little bit about, Frosty, because it's not like you got there like on a Thursday and
No.
you had
I
time
left
to
the
like
same day.
play casuals and yeah, tell the people a little bit about your trip to
So
Frosty and how that
at
went
that
out.
point in the season, I was still of the mind of like, I'm going to have to qualify through points, and that's going to be through like sheer effort, top eights, top threes, just playing a lot of tournaments. And I think I had up to that point played in just as many tournaments as pretty much anybody in the country. And I was in the qualifying for points, and that was my strategy. There were 5 months left. And I was like, a good placing at Frosty, it'll be like an 80 or 90-minute tournament. It was huge the previous year with Chris G and Shotokan in grand finals. I'll get top 8 if I do really well. And that'll be my strategy. Get a bunch of points, come back, play the month, blah, blah, blah. So I didn't want to take any time off. So I flew in the day of the tournament, and I got there. I was tired. It was so cold. It's literally frost. I mean, it was the coldest. You can't breathe.
It was so cold.
It was so
cold.
And like, I've grown up in the Northeast. I know what cold is, I think, but that was people were warning me, like, don't go outside, you might die. And they were not that far off. It was awful. And I get there, and first thing I do is I sit down and play some casual matches. It's on Super Guns. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. And then I see Lance, and I'm like, oh, well, I knew he was coming, but you never really know someone's going to come to a tournament until they're actually physically at the tournament. There's a lot of guys, you write their name down, they don't show up, especially if there's a flight involved, but he's there. And I know if I do well, I'm going to have to see Lance. Like, what I do when I go to a tournament, very often get a sense of like, who's the threat? And Lance was absolutely the threat. And I sit down and I play some matches, and Mutant decides to play me, and Mutant always beats me, and it always drives me crazy. And I go all fucking Chicago, and I'm like, let me win some casuals. And what he does, at the time, I thought he was being a dick, but he really, really helped me because he played Elena. And you told me when we were playing, you go, there's a lot of Elenas here. I didn't think about it, but there was Dirt Master, who's like one of the kings of Chicago, and what's the name of the other Elena?
Tough Gnarl.
Tough Gnarl, who's there as well. So we played some Elena matches, and that was really valuable because I ended up running into Dirt Master, and our matches were really crucial for me to just feel comfortable in that super weird
You
match.
never wanna go like, one of the things that I always remember someone telling me is that you never want to go into a tournament where like you haven't played that character that day, right?
Oh yeah,
and so obviously there are certain limitations, right? Not everyone's gonna use the entire cast, but maybe you have a training buddy or a tournament buddy that you go with, right? Just make sure you just like, you don't even almost have to kind of like read too much into it. It's just kind of just not having to have to like first see that character the first time you sit in tournament.
Oh yeah. And I got very lucky with you helping me with Elena. And what I had been doing in the previous weeks is I had become close with RKF, who's one of the best Urians in the world. And Yuki, RKF, and I had a chat, and we were all focusing on Urian. And Yuki had been playing Lance in the previous tournament in the weeks prior in Texas. And RKF was analyzing Yuki's footage against Lance. And then he would give us a breakdown, and we would watch it. And it was super valuable. So I had a whole game plan against Lance specifically. It was the Chun matchup, but it was also Lance. And the whole day, every time I had a match, I would shoot a text message to Daisuke, to Frankie, to RKF, and I was even talking to Ryan at one point. I was talking to you. I did not play that tournament by myself. That was a tournament where I had 7 or 10 of the best players, Urian or otherwise, who regularly giving me or reminding me of things that I already knew to get me in a good headspace. And it felt so great because I would sit down and I was thinking, like, you're not playing against me. You're playing against RKF. You're playing against Ryan. You're playing against Frankie. You're playing against Daisuke. You're playing against Mutant. And it gave me so much confidence to know that like, I had dudes who were helping me. And like the Lance was grand finals. That, and I had a whole game plan around every match up to that point. I in the early pools, I played in Makoto, and Mika had put out a video a while ago on the Makoto matchup, so I was super confident in that. I had spent so much time on that matchup. I played Eat, who was a player that genuinely scared me. I know he's kind of wild and crazy. And coming into that event, I always think about the tournament. Like, I'm going to play the tournament and win the tournament. But I always forget, like, these are really fun. Like, Defend the North was a terrible tournament for me, but it was one of the best weekends of my life because I met all these really cool dudes that I had known for years. And, like, Frosty was very similar. We're like, I had never met Eat. My only interaction with Eat was on our first podcast. Eat was in the chat being like, who the hell is this guy? This guy sucks. So I was like, fuck you, Eat. And then I met Eat, and we immediately hit it off. He's like an Action Bronson type fella. He's so funny. He's so gregarious and charismatic, and we had great matches in casuals. Played in the tournament, had a great time. Then in the tournament, I met a guy named Big Red, who now I play on Fight Kid a lot. Blew my mind. I was like, who the hell is this Ken coming from? Like, I'm kind of like a New York elitist. A lot of us just assume, like, if you're not in New York or LA, like, you're not very. That's just kind of like how my mind is, especially in tournaments, and like it gives me a lot of confidence when I leave. But Big Red, I was like, whoa, this is like a real Ken. Okay, this is scary. And then from Big Red, then I ran into Big Nasty, who I had played a few games at Defend the North, not as Hugo. And it was terrifying. It was the single scariest match of the tournament for me because there's this weird feeling when you're playing against Big Nasty where you know he can get that Gigas from anywhere. And like a lot of Hugos think they can get that Gigas from anywhere and you can kind of use them. But Big Nasty legitimately can get that Gigas from anywhere. He's like the American Heyow. So to play against him in that matchup and to think like, I can't lose this because it's Hugo. Like I can't lose this game. And then I made these enormous mistakes where he gigased me and the crowd and everything. It was one of the weird, I'm so used to playing Kens and Chuns and or like I'm the crowd favorite because I'm Urian. To play against the Hugo and feel like if I was in the crowd, I'd be rooting for the Hugo right now. Like to have the crowd, not necessarily against me, but to be like, oh, the Gigas Breaker. And just like to have that energy not on my side for a change, where I'm used to like, oh, the big combo or the unblockable. It messed with me a little bit where that was sick, but like, guys, come on. Like, I'm gonna, you got to root for me here. But I was totally blown away by Big Nasty.
That's an interesting point. That's an interesting point that you make. Like, you were very cognizant of the crowd and how they were pulling for Big Nasty because Big Nasty is, because the Hugo player is at a disadvantage. Oh, cool. He has to do the work.
Yeah, and he's just such a cool character, especially with Gigas. Like, you gotta root for Gigas. And
so how does that affect the way, you play? Do you start going, oh, well, I want to play fair too, or I want to show how sick I am, or,
I try to not let it affect me too much, but it was definitely a little bit off. When I played at Mackay Cup last year, I felt it because in the top 8, I was playing a lot of locals, and I'm just used to being in New York, and everyone's friends with everyone, and there's no like clear cut, oh, we're rooting for this guy. But to be like the outsider in Cincinnati and be playing where like they're boys, like their crew is around them, and like when I hit something, they're silent, and when the boy hits like some bullshit low four super, they freak out, and like that. I play with headphones a lot, and it's not a good, anyway, something that I would recommend because sound is a huge variable in this game. But it definitely affected me in the Big Nasty match when he hit Gigas Breakers, and I felt the crowd did not like that feeling at all. But then, the Big Nasty matches were sick. Then Big Nasty beat Lance, and I'm like, yo, this guy's for real. And I always knew that Big Nasty was for real. But as a Urian player, you look at Hugo players, and you don't fear them. But he made me fear him. And that's not a good feeling when you're in a 6-4, potentially 7-3, real bad matchup, and you're like, oh, I gotta be on my P's and Q's here because this dude can spin that stick faster than anybody I ever played. So that was a fascinating matchup for me. And then from there, I guess a little earlier in the tournament, I played against Dirtmaster, and Dirtmaster beat Ahmed in the Jazzy Circuit, and Ahmed's like my old rival. And I had played Dirtmaster for years on Xbox, but you never really want to play in Elena ever, but you certainly don't want to play an Elena in a tournament. And Big Nasty's like the Chicago Elena. We're in Chicago. There's like a lot of feelings around like I want to beat him because he beat Ahmed, and then I can text message 5 minutes later. And like that was the motivator in that match. But yeah, I moved to that, and then I found myself in grand finals, and it was, I think, the most unique top 8, and it has a lot of views on YouTube, and a lot of the comments are kind of like, I'm so happy that top 8 isn't just Chun, Yun, Ken, Makoto. Because there was an Ibuki, there was Mr. Part 2, and thank the good Lord that I did not run into Mr. Part 2.
Ken in Black was also, I believe, in top 8.
Ken and Black was there. So there was a Dudley, there was Mia Urian, there was Lance Chun, which is actually good for the story. You got to have Chun in there. There was Arlieth with Makoto. There was even who was the other Makoto, the SA3 Makoto, the guy who made Skullgirl.
Oh yeah, Mike Z.
Mike Z was there playing SA3 Makoto
Mm-hmm.
and playing pretty well and almost beating Lance. Like there was Dirtmaster Elena, there was Big Nasty Hugo. Like it was a vibrant and interesting top 8 of like all these unique characters, and it was great as a Urian because so often when I get towards top 5, top 3, top grand finals, it's like here's the Chun player, here's the Ken player, here's the Yun player, and for me it was like here's the Elena player. You better know that matchup. And I had played that matchup extensively with Daisuke and you earlier that day, but with Daisuke the weeks previous because I was in preparation for Dirtmaster, knowing that I'd probably play him. So like I had the confidence there. The Hugo matchup I played with Sandy Bags for years, so like I was feeling confident there. It was just nice to have good matchups. It was so rare. And then of course Lance in grand finals.
So from the sound of it, you were pretty confident coming into Frosty.
I had a lot of confidence. One of my favorite things is I've never gotten on an airplane and not. So I've only gotten on 3 airplanes, and I went to Mackay Cup, North Carolina, and Frosty, and I've won all 3.
Well, there you go.
So I have no interest in buying a plane ticket and flying across the world to not win. Mm-hmm. If it's a 6-minute trip to next level and I lose, it doesn't hurt that bad. But if it's a 4-hour flight and it's $500, that is the feeling that I don't want. So I came in there with the intention of winning, and thankfully I was able to pull it off. But it was absolutely not just because I played really well. I mean, I made a lot of mistakes, and RTF ripped me apart for a lot of the decisions I made. And it was fortunate that I was able to beat Lance in that grand finals. But if I was just playing against Lance, it would have been really, really hard. Like I had 2 hours essentially of RKF breaking down the Chun-Li matchup, both Yuki versus Lance and just Lance versus other Urians, and then just Urian versus Chun in Japan. So I knew that matchup like the back of my hand, and that's like a big issue when you play Chun. Everyone counters to you. But yeah, I came into every single one of those tournament matches. Like Big Red was one that scared me, but I'm like, Frankie's training. Like, I'm not scared if I can. Like, if you have confidence, it does help a lot, especially in tournaments where I know a lot of the when they sat down to play against me, they were more worried about me than I was worried about them. And like that's something good when you play in tournaments and you start to build a bit of a name, and maybe you're the out-of-towner. There is this sort of mystique where it's like, oh shit, that's the guy who does videos with the combos. It's like, yeah, I can't hit those in matches. That's just to scare you. I'm just going to be doing low force and fierce a lot.
Yeah, people don't know the attempts, right? The number of attempts.
No, in one of my videos, I think in the Dudley video, I did show like a time lapse of me trying 100% combo, and it was like still cut. It was super fast, but it was like still like a third of how. Some of those videos, they'll take hours to land some combos. Yeah, great tournament overall. It was super fun.
To me, like what was so special about Frosty, just from my vantage point, was, and this is not a knock on any of the other new and up and coming players, but the top 3 was yourself, Lance, and Big Nasty. Yeah. And like to me, that's kind of like that's sort of like the next, like how like in basketball, right? There was Wade, LeBron, and Carmelo, right? Like like to me, that was a great example of like 3 players that are relatively new to the scene, but have demonstrated a commitment to being good at this game. Yeah. And so, to me, that was what was really stood out in my mind for Frosty, that was the top 3. Because to me, you guys kind of are like the future, right? The next sort of, that next echelon. Because, players are going to leave at some point. Yeah. And I think that was really cool to see. And also with Frosty, like you said, it was cold as F. Oh, remember the entrance revolving door was frozen? Like the doors were frozen, and it was rough. It was rough. How frustrating was it to have a cab for casuals, but not to play the tournament in Super?
Well, did you play on that cab? It was version A.
Yeah, it was version B, I think. Yeah, it was version B. Yeah.
So for people who don't know, there's 2 versions of Third Strike. There was like I think it was the original version. No, the original version is the one I play. but they made a patched version where they removed the unblockables from Urian and Oro, and they made a few other changes. So they had a cab, a beautiful mint condition versus city cab, where I guess they have like a Mexican restaurant where they have, fighting games. But
yeah, I think you're talking about the Candy Cave.
Yeah, the Candy Cave. The board was the wrong version. So I played a lot with Dirt Masters Elena in that casual area, and it was interesting because I played well against them, and I was thinking, oh man, I can't wait to get my unblockables back. And it was really fascinating to play Urian without unblockables, where he's still pretty good, but it does take away a lot of his scary threat.
Yeah, definitely.
I have to get a phone charger. We'll do the walk and talk.
And so at Frosty, I think you kind of talked a little bit about it earlier in terms of the character variety. But in terms of your grand final set, with Lance, I know you had already talked a little bit about your preparation, sort of speaking to Yuki and speaking to RKF. But what were some of the things that you took away from the match that you maybe could have done better? Because I think more oftentimes than not, players aren't critical enough of themselves.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So obviously you won. It was a great feeling. You have a right to live in the euphoria of your victory. But the next day, are you someone who just kind of goes, okay, now let's see how I can improve, or now let's see what I did wrong?
Well, the joke of that tournament from you was you're going to put $1 in the basket every time I do a tackle.
Yeah. No. Every time someone blocks one of your full screen roundhouse tackles, I would donate $1 to the match arena.
So it was 5 months ago, and I have grown a lot since then. And I think the tournament was, in many ways, your joke helped a lot with this growth. But Exodus told me maybe 6-8 months ago, playing me and beating me, that I have the worst tackles. And to hear that, I've heard that before, but usually I hear it from guys that I'm beating. But to lose pretty much as a direct result of my tackles to EXO in that specific set, it was one of those moments where you change once the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. And it's like, I needed to change. And when I played against Big Nasty, he parried into a 60, which should have been a Gigas. I think it was supposed to be a Gigas. I lost it. There was a lot of moments where I go back and watch, my tackles were getting me in a lot of trouble. And they had built to the point where you were making jokes about, at the time I'm like, yeah, but no one's stopping. Once you get towards top 8, people are stopping, getting me killed. And now I don't tackle nearly as much, but it's still an issue. But yeah, I've watched those matches back many times. It's always easier for me to watch matches that I win.
Of course. Yeah.
But it's super valuable to never feel like you're done. I mean, there's always someone better than you, and just because you won the tournament doesn't, like that I was mentioning earlier, Gavin came to casuals and won every casual game and then left and didn't play the tournament. It's like whoever won that tournament knows, like, you were in that room, you could have gone up there. If you were in grand finals, that would have been a real fucking hard. Like, you were literally a 3 feet away. You're like, oh yeah, let me play Necro real quick. Like, that's not going to be so you're never really done. And a win. And for me, the goal's always been finals. It's like, I'm in the finals. Yeah, still a lot of work to be done. The goal's always been Japan, actually.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I guess that brings me to the next thing I wanted to talk to you about, and that's kind of short and long-term goals. Obviously, with all this COVID stuff going on, everything's just so, I don't know, what's a good word? Just so tenuous, right? Like, I feel like we've been living in a very tenuous world in the last few months. But, you are someone who hasn't gone to, Co-op Cup yet, right?
No, never.
And so, what's the status on that? I mean, do you still have a team, or did the team you have just kind of go, okay, we're gonna just put this on the shelf for now? I mean,
well, there was discussion of teaming up with some of the New York guys on the Feetwork 101 team with Frankie and Holdad, and then we're talking with Donka as well. We never got a fifth before the coronavirus kind of stopped everything. But yeah, my goal right now, is 100% the Jazzy Circuit finale whenever that happens. I quit Third Strike for like 3 months when Corona really first started, and I just played Animal Crossing. And the only real reason I came back is I was like, I'm auto-qualified. So like if I was on points and I was like close, maybe I would have come back, but I wouldn't have come back with this kind of vigor where like I'm playing so much because I already have a tournament booked where I'm in top 16. Like I have to play in that tournament at some point, so I better be as good as I can. So that's a big motivating factor. And Japan is always this looming mystery to me. Everyone I know who I play regularly has been. I have not. So I really want to go over there and be the best possible player. And these big breaks, whether it be like the Corona thing or I get stronger, so like I'm okay with it. Like if the Jazzy final was 2 months ago, maybe I'd do well, but like I know I'm going to be a better player in a year, so I'm okay with the breaks. I get better every week, every month, every year. So I don't I'm bummed out, but I'm not going anywhere, and I'm just going to keep getting better. So I'm okay with it.
Awesome. So speaking of getting better, Dan, I think now is the time. I think everyone has been waiting for. For those of you who are uninitiated here on the Mutant XPerience podcast, it is now time to see who made it on this episode's edition of Pack It Up. And so, Dan, I know you're very familiar with Pack It Up.
I am.
And I know we spoke a little briefly about Fightcade and its impact on the 3S scene right now. And one of the things that I absolutely love, it obviously there's nothing great about what we're dealing with regards to COVID, but if there's any silver lining, I mean, let's give it up for all of the people streaming Third Strike lately. Yeah, I mean, when you think about like 5 years ago and you logged on Twitch and you typed in Third Strike, like what would the chances that you'd find somebody streaming the game?
Pretty much zero.
And now not only are people streaming the game, people are hosting tournaments. And so I thought what I could do this week to kind of show my love to all the people who have been streaming Third Strike content and hosting their own tournaments is that every clip in this week's edition of Pack It Up is going to come from a different online tournament series. And there are a lot of them, Dan.
So many.
There are so many of them.
Tommy Two-Step just started a new one.
Like, to be honest, like if I was just getting started playing the game, right, and I didn't have anything to do, obviously, or I could make it, right, I would enter every online tournament. Like if I was just starting, I would just enter everyone. Just enter it. I would enter everyone. Just play, right? Just play, but play with stakes. That's the key. Play, in different types of situations. And that's what's great about Fightcade, right? You could play first to 2, first to 3, whatever. So anyway, this episode, Pack It Up. I think it's about that time. And so are you ready, Dan?
I'm more than ready. I love these.
All right.
I know I won't be in this because I don't play any online tournaments.
Yeah,
I love it.
All right, guys. So without further ado, here is this week's edition of Pack It Up. And again, shout outs to Dirt Master for the dope beat, the new theme for Pack It Up. So nominee number 1, this past Monday, Tommy Two-Step debuted his Battle Theater.
I know.
And this Cycle Stev makes an interesting, okay, I think Stev thought the tackle was gonna kill, right? I mean, that's the only, I can't think of any other reason why Stev would have done that.
That broke my heart. I was watching that live. I guess it could be an input error, because maybe the stand fierce, but it's very hard to get an input error.
Yeah.
Just kill the bastard. It's a yawn.
Yeah.
It's Shotokan.
Shout outs to the Basement Dwelling Gaming guys. Basement Brawls. They've been running Third Strike tournaments pretty regularly. And this Goki player, TPMM, sort of made the parry a little bit harder. I don't even think he had to parry yet. But why make it harder for yourself?
Or should have super jumped and then he couldn't see. That's one of the two chip outs.
Nominee number 3. Third Strike Online is popping in other countries too.
Ooh.
And so here's a recent stream here, and wow, this is not really the best set play from this Ken player here.
I love it. That's just teamwork right there.
Yeah, it's teamwork. Speaking of bad Ken set play, this is just, I don't have any words for this, but they stream Third Strike in this is a UK stream actually that I found. And so when I have this on YouTube, I'll definitely have the information to all these YouTube channels. But yeah, not a good idea to kind of do that in that situation. And so watch as this Ken player gets hit by the wake up SA2.
Oh, poor guy.
Yeah.
For
And
me,
yeah.
it's so clear cut. I won't. Oh, there's one more. Let's see.
Yeah, and this next clip isn't even from online, but it's so egregious I had to include it. Watch as this Chud player Hazan shoes to her death.
Oh no!
Oh my gosh.
No.
It's not even online. I had to add it. It's just.
Of all the moves.
Oh, Japan is not safe either, Katie.
Oh my God. The Ken
Okay,
is
it doesn't matter
okay.
where you are. Okay.
Oh, it's
And so-
close for me now.
Yeah. So again, if you wanna let me know what your favorite pack it up moment was, tweet me at Mutant XP. You can also tweet SteelHammer, excuse me, at DrSteelHammer 3S. And so yeah, that was
Cycle Steve, what have you done?
yeah, Stev. I wasn't really sure. Yeah, that hurt.
It's all right. It's all. We've all been there. We've all been there. I mean,
But guys-
I've never done that.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
done other things that equally.
But think about it, guys. You know, we have Tommy Two Step now doing something on Monday.
Yep.
We always got Vankabot doing Bruise Day Tuesdays. You know, we got the Basement Dwelling guys doing stuff on the weekend. I mean, there's just so much.
Yeah, there's so many cool tournaments, and it's really valuable to get comfortable in 2 out of 3 high stakes matches. It's just it's a skill set. A lot of guys, they are, I don't like tournaments. It's because you haven't done it enough. If you do it more, you'll get more comfortable with it, and it's just it's a good muscle to get comfortable. Getting used to using.
So, what are your thoughts on Jazzy Fight Night? I don't know if
I love it. I thought the last one was great. I've watched all of them. Cruz's performance was absolutely. I mean, it was like incredible to watch the mastery he has of that character, Urian. I mean, it's just nothing but the highest praise for the way that he played that set. And it's just really cool to watch the way you structure it, similar to like a UFC fight card. They call it the curtain jerker, or it's like the guy who opens the curtain. The first match is like, there's a skill level that's, they're not scrubs, but like these are guys that are, on the up and up. They're showcasing, and like that's as the crowd's getting bigger and bigger. And it's just fascinating to watch. It's always interesting. Like a lot of these, I would never just watch some of these first attempts, but it's fun to watch because I know like this is high stakes. Like there's people watching a lot of these guys, especially like the first few matches. They've probably never played in any sort of.
Well, you have to make it feel special for the players, right?
Yeah. And
people.
Some
people always ask me, right? Like, why do you go through all the the trailers and all that shit? I mean, just host the sets, and it's like
I love
that's what makes it important.
For sure, dude. It's
all that attention, all those eyes, and I think that's definitely to me what I kind of wanted to create with Jazzy Fight Night. But hey, man, engage in some cooler talk with me, man. Well, what are some sets that you think you'd want to see? Because I mean, it doesn't seem like this COVID stuff is letting up anytime soon.
No, it's not.
So what are some sets that you'd like to see on Jazzy Fight Night?
I like when there's some beef. There's something about that, like. I do. I just sort of like. I need this.
You need that smell of steak, that steak.
I want one guy to say I'm better than you, and the other guy to say no, you're not. I love it. It's just for some reason. I also like when it's guys who play, whether it's like a weird character. Like I really liked when Dagger G was showcased. When Dagger G in the previous one, I think a lot of people had not heard of him. I've known of him for a very long time because I was watching videos back in the day. But to see Remy put on that kind of stage, you're not going to see Remy. He isn't playing tournaments often. I think he's retired from that world. But to like get an opportunity to play in a big set against a strong player and to just showcase like that was so cool. So I like the character specialist. There's a really cool player on Fight Kid called African Soul, who's an Elena player, and he's like really fucking good and legit. I'd love to see him involved. I don't know how you get in contact with him, but like I like the weird characters. I like the specialists. Tenren is a player that, to watch him play Ibuki, it's like, what? I don't know. This is a character in the Third Strike game? I've never seen this character. So I like that. But I want some beef. I like the beef.
Again, sometimes you just need that steak,
Just a little bit. Just
that
Wagyu.
Bit. Yeah.
And I'm sure there's no shortage of guys who don't like each other. I mean, this is Third Strike, baby. There's gotta be a few people.
And if the connection is an issue, I have no problem hosting a set between two players that are relatively close in distance.
I
If,
think keeping
for
it
example, with
relatively
African
recent.
Soul, right? Maybe I could. How about African Soul versus RL Sparta, right? Doesn't RL Sparta live in Mexico?
I think African Soul is actually East Coast,
Oh,
U.S. because his connection with me is really good. I don't know, but it
because
would be
Hold That says in the chat that African Soul is from Mexico.
Is he from Mexico?
But if I would watch RL Sparta versus African Soul, I don't know if you would watch it, but
I
I'd
would
watch
absolutely watch that. I love
it.
a lot of these Mexican guys. Really, really creative and unique with the way they play. Daisuke went down to Mexico,
Uh-huh.
and he had nothing but high praise. What I love about some of these Mexican third strike players, and I've been playing them. There's RL Sparta, there's SR Pilot. A lot of these like old school guys. It seems like they've created their characters sort of in their own world where they don't have these, heavy Japanese influences. Like RL Sparta's Urien is RL Sparta's Urien. Like my Urien is like every other Japanese Urien just tried to be boiled down into one. He is doing shit that I didn't know that was a thing. And it works. And it's really cool when you watch these players who create their own character and they do it really well. And then you play them and you're like, wait a second, you're not playing the matchup. What is this? And why is it working? I like that kind of stuff. Maybe you can even get the European guys. I mean, there's some great players in Europe on
Yeah. It's always a time issue. It's different time zones. It's really difficult to do stuff. But definitely there is no shortage of third strike out there online. Again, for me, it's pretty simple. Jazzy's has always been interested in trying to grow the third strike scene. And, eventually, obviously, we would love it for people to come out to events whenever, that's possible. And so, in the meantime, everyone play third strike. And so before we get out of here, I wanted to talk about one last thing, Dan, because you're kind of famous now between the first podcast and the last and this current one. So how are you dealing with your fame, your newfound fame?
Well, I got very fortunate that there was that one documentary made by Phil Nolan about the Jazzy Circuit Finale. And if you haven't seen that, it's definitely worth watching just to get a sense. I think it's one of the best documentaries to get a sense of what it's like to be a member of our scene. Where like there's that feeling is captured beautifully in that. And I didn't do great in the Jazzy Circuit final, but I did get a lot of FaceTime in that documentary.
To me, the credit really, sorry not to cut you off. I just want to make sure I say this before I forget. But to me, the credit goes to Phil and listening to the people that he's trying to document, right? Sometimes when people work on documentaries, they sort of have their vision going into the project, their narrative that they want to weave. And, while obviously you can't really avoid that because you do need some sort of, structure or, preconceived idea of how the documentary is going to be. Phil did a really good job of just listening and observing, and just kind of the people he chose to interview was a really great cross section that I thought was more or less pretty indicative of, like you said, Hammer, how our scene is. There's a mix of new guys, mix of old guys, mix of really super fucking old guys like me, and I think I thought it was a really great piece.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, having access to so many Urien players. So I have it, like I mentioned earlier, I have a Discord called the Urien Illuminati. A lot of the guys are in here now. There's like maybe 40 members or so. I'm in regular conversation with like maybe 50 or 60 players. And what I've tried to do now that I'm sort of one of the Uriens in the US that's, doing well in tournaments is I've tried to take that leadership role on and help these new guys. I made all the videos showcasing basically everything I know. And I think it's super important if you are one of the better players with your character to try to take these new guys under your wing. And like, I did it at first kind of to try to help them. But what I've noticed is like, it helps me so much. Because when you have a Discord of 40 Urien players, all good and are all to get better, these guys pull out tech from Japanese videos I would have never found. They had 12 views. It's like some stream on Nico. We had one of our guys pulled out some crazy stream from Kuroda that I'd never seen before. So like I have in my Discord, I have every matchup broken down, and then I have the guys put their match videos, whether it's their own match videos or match videos from the Japanese. Now, if it's like I'm struggling in the Elena matchup, like when I played African Soul, I don't know this matchup that well. I went to my Discord, and there was 6 hours of Urien versus Elena footage, and I watched it all, and I studied it all, and now I feel much more confident. So like if you're a top player with your character, building a community of mid-tier, low-tier, high-tier players it will only benefit you. Like what I was saying with
Mhm.
Frosty, I had 6 or 7 guys in. Now I have 50 Urians that we all work together, and I think I'm the only, we're the only character that operates like that, where it's like
Mhm.
we work together. Like my
Mhm.
Urian is Keychain's influence, it's Jandor's influence, it's all these guys. I love my boy Jandor. He's out there grinding in those tournaments, but like you really got to work together at this point because there's too much information. Any character, you can't learn them by yourself. There's so many guys. Just build that Discord. Make character Discords. If you're a top player, just make it and just bring in the new blood, and they'll help you just as much as you help them for sure.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm a little surprised that, well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's because of sort of myself. I've always kind of viewed myself as someone with no scene. Right? There's this funny video of me competing in Evo West, and Rockefeller is commentating, and so he introduces the players and he tells everybody where they're from, and then he's like, when I get up there, it's like Anthony from somewhere, I don't know, and then and then everyone in the crowd started peeling off like different names of cities and stuff, and which is funny because every city that they named is like legit where I used to live because I moved around a lot when I was
Yeah.
younger, So, but I kind of feel like now because we can play each other online, obviously because of the internet and discords and all that social media, like maybe it'd be interesting if the third strike scene moved more to a sort of character rivalry type competition,
I mean,
like kind of like what you were saying before, right? Basically what you're suggesting is that maybe certain players should start forming their own dojos. Maybe it doesn't necessarily have to be along character lines, but like a different philosophy, because like you said, right, Dan, this just doesn't apply for Urian, but a lot of other characters, a lot of players have different styles, and some of these styles have been just as successful as others in sort of maximizing how dangerous their characters are. And so it seems like you're just suggesting like a dojo system, having
that's how I got.
players kind of,
When Dice K moved to New York, he brought me on as one of his students, and he
Mhm.
helped me tremendously. Frankie's helped me a lot. Yuki's helped me a lot. You've helped me a lot. Exo's helped me a lot. Nika's helped me a lot. All these guys, like this, for me, this game, you need a mentor, and once you get to a certain level, you need to help other people because the process of learning. Daisuke would teach me, like Daisuke showed me the shimmy down parry in the corner after a throw. That's what Daisuke gets a lot of his damage off of. He baits the crouch tech,
Mhm.
he
Mhm.
down parries, and he does crouch fierce donkey kick. And he was showing me the value of that. So what I did is I learned that, and I didn't know it all that well. And then I taught it to Keychain, and then I taught it to other Urian players. And each time I taught it, I understood it more.
Mhm.
Now it's a technique that I utilize often, and I'm very comfortable with it. But like if I had just learned it from Daisuke, I don't think I would be nearly as skilled at it because I never had to explain it to another person. And when
Well,
you
to me,
explain,
that's the highest level, right, of understanding.
absolutely.
Again, going back to Bloom's taxonomy, that's the highest level. Whether you can accurately, teach someone else what was taught to you.
And that's why all those videos that I've made about like leaving Mongolia series, every time I would have to learn like, okay, how do I actually do this? And then how do I explain it in a way that someone else can do it? My knowledge of the character specific combos or my knowledge of the techniques, it grows exponentially. So I think if you get to a certain level, the best way to continue growing is to bring on a new crop of guys. And like selfishly, I have this group of 40 Urians. A lot of them, when I first started playing with them, were not worth playing. Like they were just, I might as well just go to training mode. But with each week and month, each time they listen to me and the other guys in the Discord, I play them maybe once a month each. They all get better. And each time I play them, I'm like, well, I'm getting more comfortable in this mirror match. And it's like, that's a matchup that I never really liked. So it's really nice to have 50 guys who are coming to try to kill me every time, who are learning and growing. And I really can't stress enough. Like, you think these guys don't know anything because they've only been playing for like 2-3 years. But 2 years in 2020 is like 5 years in 2008 in terms of straight growth. Like any of these guys, like Keychain, for instance. I mean, I always make fun of Keychain because he takes all, took my color, all this stuff. I guess I took his color. I don't know. It's my color. But I mean, I have a shirt, my color. But when I first started playing with him, was just a Q player from New Jersey. And I mean, he's not actually from New Jersey. He hates them. But like I played with him, and it wasn't even really worth my time. I just it was fun to play with him and beat him as much as I could. Now it is absolutely worth my time because he is a threat, and he's someone who regularly shows me things that I had not seen. He watches just as many match videos, if not more than I do. So he's always coming with new techniques. So at first it started as sort of like a charity thing, like, oh, you're a new player, I'll help you out. Now he is a training partner for sure. And that happened in 18 months or so. And, it's Frankie's told me this too. Like, it's fun to watch. When Frankie coaches me and I win, like he says that it's more fun for him. And like when I coach Keychain, I always crouch down next to the cab and I'm like, we're going to beat this Alex and this is how we're going to do it. And, when he wins, that feeling is better than the feeling of when I beat the Alex, because it's like, I know for some reason, like there's so much pain in getting good at third strike. Like I want to help some of these guys avoid some of these fucking pitfalls that we all fall into, the wake up guest parries and the wake up headbutts and, full screen tackles. And it's like, it's so cool to watch a guy like Keychain, any of these guys. There's another Urian, the letter H, who's around now in Canada. He's very strong. Jandor is my favorite because Jandor literally didn't even have a stick. When I first met him, he didn't have a stick. He didn't play Urian. He started playing Urian from my videos. And, now I give him homework assignments. This is what the homework assignment is for the week. And he has to send me of him doing the various sets to watch his growth. The other day I played him, and for the first time I was like, this feels like a Urian. Like that didn't happen by accident. He worked hard. It's very exciting time to play this game with the ease of access of good players. If you're a new player, there's no shortage of good players who will respond to you and talk. And there's so many people who are hungry to grow and get stronger. I think the competition, once it comes back offline, it's going to be the best it's ever been.
Yeah, definitely. So before we get out of here, speaking of Frankie, I know we've talked about him a lot. He's in the chat right now, but I just wanted to announce before we get out of here that next week we're going to be doing another redo podcast. And so we're going to be redoing episode 30. And of course, my special guest next week will be none other than Frankie BFG from Feetwork University. So looking forward to next week's podcast with Frankie. But that's next week. This is this week. Dan.
Oh, just to clarify, because the chat is confused. Some Alex players absolutely shine.
Oh.
When I mentioned that was 100% Shinebox. We beat you, and we're going to beat you again, Shinebox.
Okay.
We're going to get you. Urian should never lose to Alex. He should not. If Keychain would just listen to me. Keychain's like, no, RB does it this way. I don't care how RB does it, Keychain. This is how we do it in New York. We do the headbutt. We do the ages. We do the knee drop. We do the jump roundhouse. That's how we do it. Unbelievable.
All right. So I totally lost my train of thought. What was I saying
sorry.
again?
I got very upset because Shinebox wasn't sure. It's absolutely you, Shinebox.
Okay. Well, never mind. Anyway. Oh, yes. That's what I was going to say. I know you had already said a few things, Dan, but, I'm sure this hasn't been lost on you. And we've already talked about guys like Jandor, but there's been some new players, really new players coming up.
It's
and
crazy.
So, what's your, how have you been, what's your response to that and seeing that?
There's so many new players. I mean, for me, a lot of these guys on Fightcade are players. They're not new. They're just new to me. I'm blown away by, I played a set with Common Sense today. Common Sense is a player that I haven't played in 8 years. It's just so cool to see the old guys come back. A guy like Smooth Cat. Smooth Cat's a dude I used to see in tournaments in like 2004. To run into him online, I'm like, wow, you still got it after all these years. So to me, the new players are interesting, but what's really fascinating is guys like we were talking about Pyro Lee coming back. Like, I love these old heads picking up the sticks again, because the thing about this game is, like, sure, it changes, but it doesn't change all that much. And if you have it, you have it. I mean, 5-star when he came to defend the North, I don't think he was playing all that much. It doesn't matter. Like, it's you pick it up and you get back into it. So, the new guys, the guys that really stick out to me on like a national level, like Keychain, of course. B-Train's not new anymore, but B-Train is young and B-Train is strong as hell, and he's hungry and he's always grinding. B-Train is praise. But New York has got such a great crew. The Ken and Black, Bubbles is a great Ryu player. Bubbles is on Fightcade. I forget his name on there. But yeah, there's so many strong young players.
I think it's Bubbles.
No, I think he's hiding 9 alts like I am as well.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm really happy with the growth of the New York scene, and I think it's a direct result of just our top guys being open-minded and helping these new guys. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to play bad players. I want to make you into a good player so I can become a better player. Like I don't have fun just winning 40 games in a row. I want there to be struggle. So when I'm in a tournament and I'm playing against whatever character you play, I'm confident. And every Urian that I've worked with has gotten stronger and stronger to the point where they're worth playing, and it's really fun.
Yeah, awesome. So before we get out of here, guys, just wanted to send another shout out to creativeflame.fgc.com. I know we mentioned them earlier. Dan is sporting his custom Urian t-shirt. And so check them out. Really cool stickers, really cool merch. Of course, check out the Jazzy Circuit. We are currently on hiatus. Plans to resume sometime early next year, 2021. But who knows? Obviously, like I said, times are tenuous these days.
Yeah.
Jazzy Fight Night. There's going to be some information about the next Jazzy Fight Night, which is again happens every last Friday of the month. I might as well just talk about it now. I don't know why I'm being secretive, but anyway, Jazzy Circuit Retrospective, August 25th. And also remember, on that same day, I'm going to have a special Mutant XPerience podcast with the Scrub Series guys, because August 25th marks the 2-year anniversary of the very first official Jazzy Circuit ranking event. And so that's going to be a pretty neat day. Hopefully maybe
Scrub Series guys. I'll be listening to that one for sure. The Scrub
and yeah. And
Ethan,
while I have you,
I love my boy Ethan. He's a great example of someone. When I first played Ethan, it was like, dumb. What a waste of. I mean, it's a waste of my time. It's a waste of your time. We played the other day, and I was like, wow, this is like an actual Urian that if I ran into randomly, I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna put my hat on and play for real. So just to watch the growth of these guys, it keeps me honest. Where it's like I can't lose to Mash Legs. No.
Yeah.
This Keychain can't be beating me. So like when you help these guys get better, you have to stay active because they're coming for you.
Yeah. No, most definitely. And yeah, shout outs to Ethan and Fody and everyone else in the Scrub series. Remember that they put on the very first Jazzy ranking event back in 2018 Paradigm.
Who won it? I'm trying to remember. Was it Soul
The
Avenger?
first Jazzy champion was indeed Soul Avenger, my guy Carrie. Shout outs to Carrie.
I think New York was the second one or something like that. But I remember that was when I learned about the Jazzy Circuit. I was like, what is this shit? I was like, Soul Avenger. I was like, yeah, I'll beat that dude. I don't give a That was like my big thing. I was like, I'm gonna go win.
Yeah.
And then I didn't win. And then I was like, whatever, New York's like really hard.
Yeah. And so, before the last thing I want to do, Dan, speaking of the Jazzy Circuit retrospective, in the event that your match makes it to the retrospective, the Jazzy Circuit wants to officially invite you to be part of the Jazzy retrospective.
Oh, well,
and come on and talk about your match if you get to top 8.
Oh, well, I'm getting those Indian bots to fucking. Right now, I'm going on PayPal. I'm getting the bots. You're gonna see it's gonna be like Justin versus Ryan, 27 votes. DrSteelHammer versus Fantastic, 66,000 votes. But you won't be able to because my lawyers will shut this down if you try to ban me because a win is a win. But yes, there's no way I'm losing now.
Okay. So remember, guys, if you want to vote, all you have to do is go to tinyurl.com, Jazzy Retro -5 to make your choice, your decision on which matches should advance to the Jazzy retrospective. And so we've come to the end of the podcast. Thank you so much, Dan. I know it sucks that we had to do this again, but
no, it's fun.
it was a great opportunity for us to catch up. And I guess I'll see you when I see you. And so remember, guys, next week, Frankie BFG. And so don't forget to vote in the Jazzy retrospective. Thanks for joining me on the Mutant XPerience podcast.